Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Space Weather! Looking at the sun in 193 angstroms. The story is this coronal hole, and it is gigantic. Take a look at some other views here. (304 angstroms). You can see that filamentary activity we were looking at yesterday. And sunspot 2723 is about to no longer be a sunspot. It is decaying to the point where it is just going to be a plage, an active region with no umbra. Got some filamentary activity going on. The northwest corner, southwest corner, and the southeast corner. And let's check 171 angstroms. Here's your magnetic field lines, which I think are going to explain the odd phi angle that we've been noticing the last few days. We were expecting a phi angle at 180 degrees, but we're getting a phi angle at more like 300 degrees. And that's why there are actually 3 coronal holes, and one is associated with the North Pole. Let's look at the 48-hour animation of the 171 angstroms view. You can see some filaments dancing around. But you can't dance around the data. Now, solarham.net appears to think that sunspot's already gone. Space Weather thinks that there still is a sunspot there, not exactly sure. Who is the official arbiter of this? So, thanks to spaceweather.com for their theory that the Earth-facing coronal hole is actually continuously connected to the North Pole coronal hole. And I'm not sure I agree with that. I think they're still separate based on the way the magnetometer lines look. But the phi angle doesn't lie. So let's take a look. Here's your real-time 1-minute update data. You can see the BTBZ angle is fairly flat right now. And the phi angle has been up around 315, and now we're dropping down to 120. So this is finally the magnetic connection from that large equatorial coronal hole, resting the magnetic connection away from the North Pole, which is why now we're down to a 121 phi angle, which is what we would expect from the Earth-facing equatorial coronal hole. Now, solar wind density is down to 4.85 protons per cubic centimeter, and the wind speed's down at 386. Those are both low values. Let's look at some more in-depth stuff and see if we can figure out when the incoming coronal wind stream is going to get here. Coronal hole wind stream, that is. And let's do that at spaceweathernews.com. Hey, thanks, Ben Davidson, for having such a brilliant site thrown together. Here's your X-ray flux. You can see nothing really going on with that. Now, the magnetometer is right at the bottom of its range, and it's dropped down below 50 nanotesla. It's on its way back, but it seems to be moving around down there at the bottom. So we've been early on our earthquake forecasting, our earthquake watch based on this coronal hole, because we expected it to magnetically connect 2 days ago, and it's only finally doing it now, apparently. Now, the reason that the KP index is at 3, our guess is that incoming magnetic field has caused a perturbation there, So this is probably going to go up KP index wise because that coronal hole wind stream from the older coronal hole should be arriving now. And we typically see a drop off in the electron flux when this occurs, and there it is. So 1, magnetic connection with the big equatorial coronal hole. 2, coronal hole wind stream from the older coronal hole showing up at the same time. There's your F2 ionosphere layer, which is looking pretty normal. And there's your auroras. Now, yesterday, we forgot the About Smash-O-Mash segment, so we'll have to give a bonus today and go back to the original format and give 2 facts. So let's figure it out here. 2 facts about Smash-O-Mash, your host. Let's see. Well, let's go back in time. Number 1, I learned to read at age 3 so that I would not have to go to school. And that didn't work out because about a year and a half later, my mom was signing me up for kindergarten, and I was wondering, what's it all for? What else can we share? Oh, I got an idea. What kind of work do we do? Well, I work for a science company, believe it or not. Yes. I work for an actual science company. I'm part of their field force, their field management administrative team. And that causes me to travel all around and get awesome weather photographs. Close things out by looking at 171 angstroms. Let's zoom in on the last vestiges of this sunspot. There it is. You can see a coronal mass ejection there too, actually. Hey, thanks again, subscribers. Thanks for tuning in. Keep an eye on that electron flux. Solar wind is going to increase. Have a delightful day and have a disaster plan, because the earthquake watch is not yet lifted. Should be extended another 24 hours because of that coronal hole and its late magnetic connection. Thanks for watching.